A white supremacist group busted by the FBI.
That's right. At least 4 people have been arrested, one of them from Queen Creek. All of the suspects, men from all over the U.S. The incidents we're learning about tonight, though, happened in Phoenix.
The most dangerous cartel operative isn't the one who crosses the border. It's the one who decides who gets to cross it, who stamps the papers, who waves the cars through, who sits behind the bench and calls it justice. Phoenix, Arizona, 4:32 a.m. The desert air hung cold and still when 6 black Chevy Suburbans rolled off Interstate 10, cut into the dark like blades through silk. No sirens, no lights, just a low growl of engines and the crunch of gravel beneath reinforced tires. Behind those tinted windows sat FBI agents, ICE operatives, DEA field commanders, and 2 units of federal SWAT, men and women who had rehearsed this moment in their heads for 9 months. They weren't heading to a cartel compound. They weren't heading to a warehouse on the edge of town. They were heading to Desert Ridge Estates, one of the wealthiest gated communities in Arizona, where the houses had names like Villa Serena and Casa del Sol, where the HOA fined you for the wrong shade of beige, and where a federal judge named Vincent Harlow lived in a 6,400 square foot stucco mansion at the end of Cactus Blossom Court. At 4:37 a.m., the lead vehicle stopped 50 feet from the gate. No one spoke. The team lead checked his watch. Synchronized. 14 other strike teams across 8 states were doing the exact same thing right now. Albuquerque, El Paso, Las Vegas, Tucson, San Diego, Fresno, Dallas, Austin, all waiting for the same 4-word text message that would come from a command center buried deep inside FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. At 4:38 a.m., the message came. Gate is open. Execute. The Suburbans surged forward. At 4:41 a.m., the front door of Judge Vincent Harlow's home exploded inward under the force of a battering ram swung by 2 agents in full tactical gear. The oak didn't crack. It detonated, sending splinters across Italian tile and knocking a framed Georgetown law degree off the entry wall. Flashbangs followed. White light, ear-splitting thunder. Smoke rolling through the foyer like fog through a graveyard. FBI, federal warrant, hands where we can see them. Boots pounded through the house. Living room, kitchen, master bedroom, office. Agents moved like shadows, fast and silent, clearing corners with rifles raised and fingers resting just outside trigger guards. In the master bedroom, Judge Vincent Harlow sat up in bed, eyes wide, mouth open, wearing silk pajamas that cost more than most people's rent. His wife screamed. His teenage son appeared in the hallway, frozen, staring at the red laser dots dancing across the walls. Vincent Harlow, you are under arrest for conspiracy to distribute narcotics, racketeering, obstruction of justice, and money laundering. You have the right to remain silent. But Harlow wasn't looking at the agent reading him his rights. He was looking past him toward the basement door at the end of the hall. And that's when the agents knew. They always know. The basement wasn't finished like the rest of the house. No recessed lighting, no crown molding, just bare concrete steps, peeling paint, and a steel-reinforced door at the bottom with a biometric scanner, glowing faint blue in the dark. An agent brought a portable angle grinder. Sparks flew, metal screamed, the air filled with the smell of burning steel. When the lock finally gave and the door swung open, the first thing that hit them wasn't what they saw. It was what they smelled. Chemical, sharp, synthetic, the smell of death packaged for sale. Inside, the room looked like a distribution warehouse. Industrial metal shelving, floor to ceiling. Vacuum-sealed bricks stacked with military precision. Each one labeled. Each one logged. Each one stamped with a scorpion coiled around a dagger. The mark of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. CJNG, one of the most violent criminal organizations on the planet. The lead agent stepped inside, swept his flashlight across the shelves, and felt his stomach turn. Command, this is Alpha 1. We've got product, a lot of it. 42 kilograms of fentanyl. Enough to kill 21 million people. 13 kilograms of heroin. Pure, uncut, ready for street distribution. 68 kilograms of methamphetamine. Crystal, blue tinted, cartel grade. 1.9 metric tons total. Not in a cartel stash house. In the basement of a sitting federal judge. But that wasn't all. In the back corner of the room, behind a row of shelving units, agents found a floor safe embedded in the concrete. It took a blowtorch and 20 minutes to crack it open. Inside, $7.2 million in cash, bundled in plastic wrap, stacked in neat $100,000 bricks. Bills so new they still smell like ink. 5 encrypted satellite phones, one of them still warm, and a black leather ledger, the kind judges used to take notes during trials. Except this one wasn't filled with legal arguments. It was filled with case numbers, dates, dollar amounts, all written in red ink that bled slightly into the paper, like something living had touched it. One agent photographed a page and read it aloud, voice flat, try and keep the rage out of it. CR 2023-11842. Motion denied. Delay 120 days. $280,000. CR 2024-00531. Warrant suppressed. Shipment cleared. $390,000. CR 2024-01277. Case dismissed. Route protected. $510,000. Every line was a shipment that made it through. Every dollar amount was a life bought and sold. At 5:09 a.m., Judge Vincent Harlow was escorted out his home in handcuffs, still wearing those silk pajamas. His wife sobbed on the front lawn. His son stood in the doorway, face pale, hands shaking. Neighbors in bathrobes watched from behind their gates. Phones out, recording everything. By sunrise, the video would be everywhere. But this wasn't just about one judge. This was about the crack in the foundation and what crawled out when you finally looked inside. If you're still listening, tap like and comment accountability so more people see this. Because what happened next didn't just shock the FBI. It shattered everything they thought they knew about how deep the rot had gone. At 6:15 a.m., a single encrypted message went out from FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. For words, all units, execute simultaneously. Across 8 states, phones buzzed, radios crackled, timers hit 0. What happened next looked like a coordinated military strike. Because that's exactly what it was. Phoenix, Arizona, 6:18 a.m. FBI agents moved on the law offices of Assistant District Attorney Monica Reyes, a prosecutor with an 86% conviction rate, a rising star in Arizona's legal community. The kind of lawyer who gave keynote speeches at criminal justice conferences and whose closing arguments were studied in law school seminars. She was supposed to be one of the good ones. But when agents pulled open her desk drawer, they found $220,000 in cash, rubber banded in stacks of hundreds, and a burner phone still warm from recent use. On the screen, encrypted messages mapping safe corridors along Interstate 10. 10 clear 3 to 5 a.m. Friday. Shipment confirmed. Phoenix to Tucson. 50K transferred. Route protected. The woman who built her career prosecuting drug dealers was the one clearing the highways for cartel convoys. El Paso, Texas, 6:21 a.m. ICE agents stormed a quiet stucco house on the edge of the city. Inside lived Border Patrol Supervisor Carlos Mendez, a 19-year veteran with commendations for intercepting cartel couriers at the Santa Teresa checkpoint. His garage told a different story. Behind stacked oil drums, agents found 51 kilograms of methamphetamine, vacuum-sealed and stamped with the same Scorpion logo found in Judge Harlow's basement. On a workbench next to a framed photo of Mendez in uniform, they found a handwritten log. Dates, license plates, checkpoint times, columns of shipments noted like inventory. Besides several entries, one word repeated in looping handwriting. Clear. The man stopping drugs at the border was the one waving them through. Albuquerque, New Mexico, 6:24 a.m. DEA agents boxed in a 10 single-story house at the end of a cul-de-sac. Inside lived Sheriff's Deputy Nathan Cross, narcotics unit. 14 years on the force, the man who wrote the county's drug evidence protocols. His basement held something that was never supposed to exist outside a secure facility, a police evidence locker. Inside, cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, all cataloged, all sealed in official evidence bags, complete with case numbers and signatures. Every label traced back to seizures that had gone missing from county storage. This wasn't a cop skimming product off the top. This was inventory management. The man protecting evidence was running a resale operation. And across the Southwest, the pattern repeated. California, Texas, New Mexico, Nevada, Colorado, Utah, Oklahoma, Arizona. Badges coming off. Doors kicked in. Evidence bags filling. 14 targets in 14 minutes. By sunrise, the numbers were staggering. 29 officials arrested 2.5 metric tons of synthetic drugs, seized $189 million in assets frozen for 61 vehicles, impounded 91 properties, raided 22 port officials taken into custody. But the real count hadn't even started yet. 18 months earlier, the arrest that stunned the Southwest began with a sound most people never notice. A click on a wiretap line in a windowless lab at Quantico. It was October 2022. A DEA intercept flagged a late-night call between a CJNG lieutenant in Jalisco, Mexico, and an unknown contact in Phoenix. The cartel side spoke in slang and code. The Phoenix voice didn't. He spoke in legalese. He quoted Rule 16, discovery deadlines, speedy trial clocks, motion calendars. He didn't offer drugs or weapons. He offered calendar manipulation, delay this arraignment, stall that warrant. Buried a motion on page 6 of the docket. An analyst isolated the voice, ran it through federal databases, and watched the name appear on screen, Judge Vincent Harlow. But inside that lab, no one said, "Case closed." They wrote one phrase on the board under his photo, "Entry point." For the first time, they sensed a network. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit pulled every transaction tied to Vincent Harlow's name, every account, every LLC, every card swipe, every property purchase. 9 months of surveillance turned into a pattern. Offshore transfers from shell companies in Panama, the Cayman Islands, and the British Virgin Islands. Property purchases made through LLCs that hadn't existed 3 years earlier. Consulting fees wired to family members for work no one could document. Tuition payments and education grants from a foundation no one had heard of before 2021. But Harlow wasn't the only one getting paid. When investigators overlaid his network on federal payroll data, 28 other names lit up on the screen. Assistant prosecutors, sheriff's deputies, port officials, supervisors at border checkpoints, people in charge of saying yes or no, all connected, all suddenly wealthy in ways their salaries couldn't explain, all very interested in real estate portfolios, cryptocurrency wallets, and trust funds for their children, managed by the same quiet foundation. The cartel hadn't just bought a judge or a cop or a clerk. They had built a financial ecosystem, a shadow economy feeding on the very institutions meant to stop them. But money alone doesn't move drugs. You need infrastructure. You need a system. And what Operation Desert uncovered was a masterpiece of criminal logistics. Here's how it worked. Step 1. The crossing. Cartel trucks rolled toward Nogales, Arizona. Border Patrol Supervisor Carlos Mendez stood at the gate. No secondary inspection. No delay. Average crossing time for minutes. Every skip search was a green light worth tens of thousands of dollars. Step 2, the escort. Once across, the truck slipped into a convoy of vehicles registered to the City of Phoenix Procurement Department. On paper, municipal deliveries. In reality, fentanyl riding in the shadow of city logos. The contracts, the plates, the fuel cards, all arranged by Procurement Officer Elena Vasquez. Step 3, the storage. The convoy ended at a warehouse owned by a shell company with a flawless city business license, approved and signed off by Judge Vincent Harlow himself. Step 4, the protection. If any local task force started asking questions, Assistant DA Monica Reyes handled the paperwork. Search warrants delayed, evidence suppressed, cases quietly dismissed. This wasn't a drug ring sneaking past government. This was government infrastructure repurposed into a drug pipeline with a cartel client. While the system ran with surgical precision, the human cost was exploding. Phoenix emergency rooms treated 519 overdose cases in the 6 months before the raids. 103 of those patients never walked back out. The pills didn't look like street drugs. They looked like medicine. Same blue color, same imprint, same childproof bottle. Parents checked the label. Grandparents set them next to their nightly prescriptions. Coaches kept them in team lockers. But they weren't painkillers. Each tablet carried enough fentanyl to stop a breathing chest in seconds. And they were everywhere. High school parking lots, college dorm rooms, nursing homes where elderly patients thought they were taking what the doctor ordered. Every quiet funeral, every folded yearbook photo, every empty bed in a dorm or a nursery. The pipeline Judge Vincent Harlow protected didn't just move product. It delivered death to people who never thought they were touching drugs at all. May 2024. 18 months of surveillance, wiretaps, and sleepless nights finally turned into indictments printed in black ink on white paper. A federal grand jury charged all 29 defendants with conspiracy to distribute narcotics racketeering under RSO obstruction of justice money laundering. It was a legal way of saying something simple. You didn't just look away. You helped build the machine. Judge Vincent Harlow faced life in prison without the possibility of parole. At his arraignment, he didn't argue. He didn't pound the table. He didn't look at the gallery. He sat in a rumpled suit that no longer fit right, staring at a spot on the defense table as his attorney claimed he'd been coerced by cartel threats, that his family had been in danger, that he'd had no choice. Then the prosecutors rolled in the exhibits. $7.2 million in cash photograph were to have been found in his closet safe, 42 kilograms of fentanyl, 13 kilograms of heroin, the leather ledger written in his own hand. When the new judge read the charges out loud, his voice echoed off the marble and dark like a crack through stone. You were given power to protect, he said. Instead, you sold that power to those who destroy. Harlow didn't look up. Outside, the U.S. Attorney General stepped to a podium in front of a wall of badges and flags. We will restore trust. We will rebuild institutions. We will protect communities. The triad sounded strong in a microphone, but words don't erase an empty seat at a dinner table. Across the street, a mother stood behind the barricades holding a framed photo of her 16-year-old son. 7 months earlier, he took one counterfeit pill for a sports injury and never woke up. She didn't shout. She didn't chant. She just held the picture tight against her chest until her knuckles turned white. The photo said everything no sentence could. Operation Desert Gate seized. 2.5 metric tons of narcotics, fentanyl, heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine $189 million in cash, and assets 380 firearms, including military-grade rifles, more than 470 separate pieces of evidence tying public officials to cartel operations. On paper, it was success. But numbers don't measure betrayal. The people who swore an oath to uphold the law had become architects of its collapse. Courtrooms meant to deliver justice had been turned into assembly lines for poison. Badges meant to protect had been treated like licenses to kill for hire. The trials will take years. Appeals will follow. New policies will be drafted. New task forces announced. New promises made. But somewhere between a judge's robe and a cartel ledger, a deeper question waits for an answer. How do you rebuild trust in a system that almost killed you? Because in the end, laws are just ink and paper. The real shield is the people who demand better, who refuse to look away, who ask together one hard question. How much betrayal is too much to forgive? In the months since Operation Desert Gate, the headlines have moved on, but the wound hasn't closed. Mandatory financial audits for federal judges, enhanced vetting for law enforcement in border regions, independent oversight panels to review prosecutorial conduct. On paper, it sounds like progress. In reality, it's still just paper. Because the question isn't whether the system failed. Everyone knows it did. The real question is how far the rot went before anyone noticed. How many Judge Harlows are still out there, wearing robes and speaking in the language of justice? How many courtrooms are already compromised before a single witness takes a stand? How many badges are still pinned to uniforms owned in secret by cartel money? How many shipments are moving tonight through legal corridors, escorted by government plates, and protected by official signatures? Since May 2024, 23 more arrests have been made in connected cases. $61 million in cartel assets have been traced back to U.S. officials. 9 federal investigations into judicial corruption are still open across the country. The map keeps expanding. The web keeps growing. Every new line on the chart is another place trust broke before anyone saw it crack. In Phoenix, Judge Vincent Harlow's old courtroom is sealed. His nameplate pulled from the wall. His gavel tagged, bagged, and locked away as evidence. But across the Southwest, courtrooms still open every morning. New cases are called. New oaths are sworn. And somewhere right now, a phone is lighting up an encrypted message asking a simple question. Can you clear the way? Someone will say yes. Someone will pretend they never heard it. This isn't just a story about one corrupt judge. It's a story about betrayal. When people entrusted with power choose profit over principle. When justice turns into a transaction. So here's the question. Do we demand accountability or accept that some doors stay closed? If this matters, like comment accountability or silence, and share it. Phoenix was one city. Next week, the senator's shipment. The most dangerous cartel operative isn't the one who crosses the border. It's the one who controls it.